reaction is the second step. It's really an NH4, which is ammonium ion. It's just like ammonia, but it's got an extra hydrogen. Ultimately it gets converted into first NO2. Again, this is a reaction done only by bacteria.
Is that ammonia ion?
Yeah, ammonium ion. Yeah,
Ammonium.
ammonium. You can say ammonia ion, and I would know what you were talking about. Ion, ion. So this again, this reaction, really important, only done by bacteria. And then the last one,
Was both nitrate or nitrite?
nitrite
And
and
nitrate.
nitrate. So NO2 is nitrite, and NO3 is nitrate. And then the third step is just the opposite of nitrification. It's called denitrification. Okay, basically what you're doing is you're going from N, you just do everything there and you did there kind of backwards. NO3 is going to NO2, and it's going to N2O, and finally goes to nitrogen oxide. If you look at the third to very last page, fourth to last page, yeah. I actually went on Google Image and just looked at a bunch of different images until I found this. This is basically that whole process, the three-step thing that I just wrote down up here. And it explains why these things are important. 78% of the atmosphere on the planet is nitrogen gas, but the only organisms that can really use it are bacteria. We need why do we need nitrogen? What do you need nitrogen?
Well, I thought nitrogen was like making things grow.
Nitrogen makes plants grow, but why does it make plants grow? What biomolecules do you have inside you that have nitrogen? So you gotta remember. Amino acids. All your proteins are made out of amino acids, and amino acids are loaded with nitrogen. You couldn't make new muscle tissue, you couldn't make new enzymes, you couldn't make anything unless you had some source of nitrogenous. We talk about these things called trophic levels. Okay. And trophic levels really mean feeding levels. Feeding. So we typically talk about different kinds of trophism. We talk about autotrophs. What are autotrophs?
Self-feeders.
Self-feeders, exactly.
I knew that.
And when we think about that group, what goes in there? Green plants, right? Okay. That's the biggest group we think about, green plants. And that is contrasted with heterotrophs. Well, it means, yeah, they feed on other things other than themselves. They can't feed themselves. So I'll have notes here for this. Feed on autotrophs. Or other heterotrophs. Let's talk about that for a second. What are we, if you had to classify us into one of these two categories? Right, we're heterotrophs. We eat green plants, we eat salad, we eat green beans, we eat spinach, we eat stuff like that. We also eat
Other animals.
and other animals. Okay, so we feed on both autotrophs and heterotrophs when I eat cow or pig or chicken. Right? Okay, so that's two words that you kind of need to know what those two things mean. Now, in terms of the actual trophic levels, this is kind of, you probably had this, I don't know, some exposure to it, maybe in high school.
Food chain.
Yeah, food chains, food webs, kids these days get this in like third grade, we didn't get it in third grade, I mean, I didn't get it in third grade. But when we think about these things, we talk about different, and again, these are different trophic levels. TROPHIC. And we draw these things that we call food pyramids. We talk about primary producers. Okay. We talk about primary consumers. Okay. We talk about secondary consumers. And then you might talk about something called a tertiary consumer. These have other labels though too. When we think about primary producers, we're thinking about these are autotrophs, green plants. These are the organisms that are able to take the sun's energy and the carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere, okay, run that through photosynthesis and turn it into sugar molecules. They are the primary organisms on the planet that produce energy. Right? They're the only things that can actually take carbon and fix it into a form that we can use. Primary consumers, this is your first level. These are all heterotrophs now from here on out. Hetero. Primary consumers, give me an example of a primary consumer. Charles, you born again. Yeah, so, and I always think of a rabbit. I don't know why, but that's like, at some point in high school, I must have seen like a food pyramid that said herbivore rabbit, right? All right, so these are herbivores. They eat only plants. And I always think about rabbit, but there are a bunch of other ones that we find. Secondary consumer, something that eats rabbits. That could be like a
Lion.
what?
Lion.
A lion, could be a lion. We're kind of crossing continents there a little bit, but that's okay.
Coyote.
How about a coyote? Let's go with that. Okay. And then tertiary consumers,
What is a coyote?
Yeah.
A lion.
a lion, we could cross continents. Okay, or
A bear?
a bear.
No.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
If it's not a dog.
How about an eagle if the coyote was dead?
Vulture.
Turkey buzzard.
Yeah. Okay, so some kind of a, let's say bird of prey. All right. But you get the idea. It's this picture that shows that, and we call this thing a food pyramid. Now, the other thing that's kind of important about this a little bit is that the rest talk about that in particular. This is different test. We'll bring it home and make it practical. Why is there sort of an ecological argument for all of us to become vegetarians? I'm not, I'm meat. I know I've got canines and I like raw
steers the field that I'm feeding out, and I see ribeyes and T-bones
Yeah.
and fillets.
It's real, as long as you.
And when I look at his big ass, I'm thinking, wow, what's some roast there?
That is steak on the hoof, isn't it?
And I could feed him all he wants.
There is this rule in ecology that's called the 10%. This is pretty easy. What it says is that of all the biomass, I'll write it in, of all, let's say energy, of all the energy at any single SING trophic level, only 10% of that is available to support the next highest growth.
Wow.
And actually, they've measured this, and it's not exactly 10%. Sometimes it's 13%, sometimes it's 17%, sometimes it's 4%. Averages out around 10%. So what this means is that if you've got 1,000 kilocalories of energy available here, you're only going to be able to support 100 kilocalories of mass here. And that's only going to support 10 kilocalories of mass here. And that's only going to support 1 kilocalorie of mass here. The real take home of that is that if you look at most ecosystems, you don't really get anything above sort of a tertiary consumer. It's real energy inefficient for that to happen in most natural systems. Even us, if you think about it, and I was trying to think of some examples while I was driving around, we might eat, and I'm a fish guy or whatever, so I think about, okay, I might eat a walleye, which I like walleye fried. Not good for my heart, but I like it. It's good for my soul. Walleye eat almost any other fish, including like a bass. I mean, a big walleye can eat like a bass or something else. That thing may in turn be feeding on another smaller fish, so it's 1, 2, 3. And that fish might actually feed on an insect, 4, and that insect might be the thing that actually feeds on a green plant. Okay, so that's like 5 or 6 levels. That's pretty uncommon, though, if you think about it. It's like, and you think about our diet, it's like, well, how much walleye do we eat?
Not as much as tilapia.
Yeah. And tilapia eat plant matter, right? They're primary, they're herbivores. I grow those in my greenhouse. They, I mean, they subsist pretty well. We actually give them some chow, but it's mainly vegetative. They'll probably eat fish if they
You're
have it.
raising tilapia?
In my latter half century, the last half of the century that I have on the planet, I'm over the hill. Friday's my birthday, 52.
Oh, happy birthday.
So,
Hey.
but I've started working on some stuff that's way outside of my research area. One of the things that we've been playing with is we've got these beds that I built in my garage. They're like made out of plywood. You fill them up with these clay balls, and you put a pump system in there. It's like a sprinkler. And then underneath it, there's a 55-gallon aquarium that with tilapia. So the tilapia, we feed them, they poop. And then the fish poop water gets pumped up into this bed, and it actually fertilizes the plants, and as it filters through this clay particle bed, it actually filters the water out, and the bacterial colony that's living up there does a lot of the aeration, does all those conversions we talked about, so it gets rid of the ammonia, which is the main excretory product from fish, and it turns it into available forms of stuff for the other organisms to use. So it's like this self-contained, it's like a little ecosystem. but we've got tilapia in there that are this big, and heads of lettuce, and peppers and other green plants up on top, but we don't add any fertilizer to it at all. So the only
The
thing.
fish do it.
Yeah, the fish do it, we throw a little fish food in the whole thing.
Because the water from the
Yeah.
fish is circulating.
It's-
It's
yeah,
fascinating, oh my God.
So the idea is for this is, well, it's kind of fun, I'm having a good time with it. His department chair, I don't get to do as much real research as I used to. But this is something I can go out and do. But the other thing is, we get more and more people in more densely populated areas. We're gonna get to a point in the next 50 years where food's gonna become a problem. We have to figure out how to make it and grow it in areas where we live. It's just not practical to truck everything in from Arkansas. It's gonna become very impractical as fuel cost wise. So we're sort of experimenting with things. It's kind of neat. But all of it relies on this kind of stuff, which, to be honest with you, when I finished my PhD, I knew jack about this. Very, very little about this. I was trained in genetics and fish biology, right? And not the kind of fish biology about what they're pooping, but about speciation and gene flow and that sort of stuff. So I've kind of started picking this up on the side as I've senesced. So that's my senescence. So let me take a picture of these two. Now, one of the problems with that whole food pyramid thing, and any fourth grader worth her salt can tell you this now, is that it's kind of not really realistic. And probably what your fourth grader, whether it's your daughter or your granddaughter, told you is that they learned in class about something called food chain or food web. One of the things that we do with kids